Hello and welcome to the new segment of The Trout Show, Vinyl to Viral. On our show we'll talk about all things music from the beginning of the first recordings to what's current in the music world. We'll cover the famous artists of the past through those that are big names in the music business now. Plus a few facts about the business of music sprinkled in. Now here's your host, producer, songwriter, creator, and a guy that loves to turn his ump to 11, Rick Troutman aka The Trout. Take it away, Trout.
Thanks, Emily. Appreciate the great intro by you and appreciate everybody that's listening to this podcast. Welcome, music lovers everywhere. This is Rick Troutman, aka The Trout. Now, I normally have podcasts about interviews with great musicians, and I still will have those this year. But I decided to start something different. Vinyl to Viral. Well, we'll talk about history of the music, how everything got started, what's going on now, the music business, some interesting facts that you may find hard to believe about what's happening and what's happened in the music industry. Get comfortable, because up next, we talk about what was the first recording ever made that started the music business. That's coming up next, right after a message from our supporter, David Smith with Edward Jones.
The Trout Show is supported by David Smith with Edward Jones. David has years of experience of assisting individuals just like you with reaching their financial possibilities. There are times in our life that we come across financial problems and we don't know what to do. Maybe you had a relative that recently passed away and left you a large sum of money. However, you're not clear on what to do. If you live in the continental United States, I suggest you contact David Smith with Edward Jones at 469-372-1587. David can look at your situation and provide his expertise that he has been providing his clients for years. Don't tackle these situations by yourself. Contact David at 469-372-1587 to help you make decisions that are important to your financial situation. That's David Smith with Edward Jones at 469-372-1587.
Did you ever think about how easy it is for us to listen to music nowadays? You know, we carry around our cell phones that we can get to any kind of music, any type of music, any genre of music by just going to a streaming service and say, would you mind playing Taylor Swift's newest song? Or you can say, I'd like to hear Beethoven's, give me a surprise song by Beethoven. Or anything in between. But you know, we never probably think about how did this all get started? How did we get to this point where no matter where we are, no matter when we want to, we can listen to music the way we want to. And the quality of music, oh man, it's changed dramatically over the decades. But here's something to think about. Who was the first person and what was the first recording ever made? Well, it went back almost 150 years ago, believe it or not. On December 6, 1877, Thomas Edison demonstrated his groundbreaking invention, the phonograph, the first device capable of both recording and reproducing sound. This moment marked a pivotal point in human history, ushering in the era of recorded audio. Think about that, almost 150 years ago. Edison's innovation stemmed from his work on the telegraph and telephone. Well, the telegraph is not around anymore, but I think we're using the telephone a few times a day, don't we? He devised a method to capture sound vibrations on tinfoil covered cylinder using a stylus. When the stylus was directed into the device, the vibrations were etched in the soil as grooves, and the same stylus could then trace these grooves to play back the recorded sound. Everything was done on a cylinder. If you've ever seen the pictures of the old phonographs with the cylinder and a big horn, that's how it was done. Now you're probably asking, okay, so he invented the phonograph. What was the first recording ever made? This is what Thomas Edison wanted to do. Mary had a little lamb.
The first words I spoke in the original phonograph, a little piece of practical poetry. Mary had a little lamb, its fleece was white as snow, and everywhere that Mary went, the lamb was sure to go.
Yep, that's it. That's the whole thing right there. Thomas A. Edison doing his version of Mary Had a Little Lamb. And from there, we have grown to, well, let's just say music is everywhere we go now. And it's hard to believe that back then, a guy that invented the light bulb, which we kind of use still today, had enough ideas in his brain to say, we need to record our voices. So probably the next question you're going to ask yourself is, well, that was him speaking, but who was the first person to sing or perform on recordings? Answer to that is up next, right after this.
Elevate your music with expert metadata service with Nisco Music. If you're a composer, producer, or songwriter and you want music to be heard by individuals that purchase music for advertisements, television shows, movies, or just about every place that music is played, you'll need to provide metadata about your song. At Nisco Music, our experienced team will ensure your song has the necessary information for discoverability, especially in the area of sync licensing. Let us help you expand your music opportunities. Why wait? The world is waiting for your music. Visit us today at nizcomusic.com. That's Nisco Music. nizcomusic.com.
Now let me make something very perfectly clear. Now the first recording on a phonograph that was played back was Thomas A. Edison's Mary Had a Little Lamb. But you have to go back to 1860, 1860, when a French inventor did the version of Au Clair de Lune, which is one of the greatest classical songs ever written, on an item he called the phonautograph. It was actually a piece of paper, and it was very difficult to understand. But I want to make sure you understand that was the first time a human voice was recorded, all the way back in 1860. Now the question is, of course, when was the first song or music recorded? That was in 1888. It took them several years before they did this, and it was a song written by a composer, Arthur Sullivan's The Lost Chord. And guess what? It wasn't number one with a bullet. Not at all. So the next time you put your headphones on or you listen to your stereo system at 11 and you listen to every single note that somebody's playing, the mix is incredibly great. You feel like you're there with a symphony or there at the rock concert. Remember, it all started with one guy, Thomas Edison, with a dream and a poetry piece that we all learned as kids. Up next, the question is, how do you get a gold record if nobody buys records anymore? Well, if you're like millions of other people that listen to music, you probably listen to streaming. So when streaming became so popular, the RIAA, it's the Recording Institute of America that keeps track of all these wonderful things, decided to make streaming the source for gold and platinum records. Now, if you're not familiar with the record industry, the recording industry, it used to be if you sold 500,000 records, whether it was a single or an album, you got a gold record. If you had 1 million, it was platinum, and then from there on, triple platinum, quadruple platinum, and so forth. But now since streaming is so popular, they've had to change it. So what is the requirements to have a gold record from streaming? Well, here you go. It's a big number, folks. 75 million streams. That's right, 75 million streams for one song. For an album, hold your breath on this one, 750 million streams. Wow, 750 million streams. So in 2024, who was the biggest selling artist of the year? Well, it shouldn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out. Taylor Swift. So here's the answer to your next trivia question, and that is, who has the most gold and platinum records? Yep, it's those four lads from Liverpool. 50 years later, they have tallied 178 million cumulative album certificates spanning 48 separate albums. They can't be stopped. Unbelievable. So that's how you get a gold record or platinum record in today's recording industry. Well, that's it for this episode of Vinyl to Viral with the Trout, aka Rick Troutman. Thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed it. Got lots more of these interesting streaming podcasts coming along your way down the road. And don't forget to listen to my other shows, The Trout Show, where we interview musicians, famous and independent artists across the world, and people that are involved in the music industry. All that information you can find on my website at thetroutshow.com. Thanks to our sponsor and our supporter, David Smith and Nesco Music, for keeping us right here on your favorite streaming service. So next time, people, you know what I always say. It's only rock and roll, but I love it. See ya.